If you've got the Sony a6400 and you want to get started with travel photography without overthinking settings, then this is the setup that I actually use. This video is to help you quickly set up the Sony a6400, especially as the older menu systems aren't as smooth as the current cameras. The goal is simple: let the camera handle all the technical stuff so you can focus on capturing the moments, light, and composition. I shoot almost everything in aperture priority. This gives me control over depth of field while the camera handles the shutter speed for me. On the a6400 I use the scroll wheel to change the aperture and the top dial for exposure compensation. That's basically my entire shooting workflow. Once this is set, I rarely touch anything else while walking around. If I want to do something more specific, like intentionally shooting with a slower shutter speed, I'll switch modes, but for the sake of simplicity in this video, we're sticking with aperture priority. If you want a deeper dive into other modes, just let me know in the comments. ISO is set to auto, and it's capped at around 800. For places with plenty of sunlight like Cyprus, this works perfectly most of the time. If it starts to get overcast or darker, I'll bump that cap up to 1600. Now I know some photographers would cringe at auto ISO, but this video isn't about client work or perfection. It's for normal people who want simple, reliable setup, and auto ISO is absolutely fine here. Trust me. By doing this, you let the camera handle exposure so you can just stay focused on shooting. Shutter speed is automatic in this mode, but I'll keep an eye on it. If I notice motion blur, I'll open up the aperture first, and if that's not enough, then I'll raise the ISO. And of course, if you want motion blur for a more dynamic look, that's totally fine too. Exposure compensation stays at 0 for most situations. And if I'm shooting into the sun, dealing with bright highlights, I'll drop it to -0.3 or -0.7. You can recover the shadows later, but you can't recover clipped highlights. No, don't move. Drive mode stays on single shooting. If something is moving fast, I'll switch it to continuous high, but for travel and street photography, single is totally fine. Unless you run into a Cyprus cat that suddenly decides it wants to become friends with you, then continuous shooting might help. I also keep rule of thirds and diagonal grids turned on. This helps me always know where my center point is and makes framing and composing shots much easier. Having these grids can generally improve the overall aesthetic of your photos, especially when you're still building confidence with composition. Honestly, just set your camera to continuous autofocus and leave it there. For point and shoot travel photography, you almost never need to change it. It's that good. It works great for moving subjects and keeps everything responsive while you're walking around. You can also set subject detection to human or animal, which is super useful and works really well on the Sony a6400. My focus area is set to wide, and this covers most travel situations without having to think about it. If I need to focus on something specific, I just tap on the screen to override it. Simple. Metering mode is set to multi, which works well in most situations. If you're photographing something very specific, you can change it, and I recommend adding that to your function menu, which I'll get into in a moment. White balance stays on auto, especially if you're shooting raw, but you can always fix that later. And if you want to adjust white balance based on weather presets, they're clearly labeled and easy on screen, but honestly, auto works just fine. I like to shoot both RAW and JPEG, and I set my JPEG quality to extra fine, large in a 3:2 aspect ratio. Now I know not everyone wants to edit, and people often say other brands like Canon or Fujifilm have better colors, and that's fine. If you're shooting RAW, you can change the look later anyway. And if you're shooting JPEGs, this is where creative styles come in. Think of these as simple color presets built into your camera. I keep mine on standard because I prefer editing raw, but now and again I like to try vivid and neutral, and these are great options to try, and these are the ones that I use the most. If you press the trash icon, the camera explains what each style does, and which is actually really helpful. The best way to learn here is simple, just try them out and see which ones you like. And what I'll do is I'll leave a link down below to the presets I use, and the one I use the most called Mediterranean. Now the Sony a6400 has a couple of custom buttons that lets you access key settings quickly without diving into the menu, and I've set mine up like this. I have C1 set to focus mode and C2 set to focus area. These are the two things that I want quick access to while shooting, but feel free to change them based on how you shoot. Everything else I just leave on default. The buttons are clearly labelled and Sony's icons actually make sense, so there's no need to overcomplicate it. Now before going into the main menu, I want to quickly show you what I keep in my function menu. This is completely customizable, but these are the options I've found most useful for travel photography. Now on mine I have things like grid lines, focus mode, focus area, exposure compensation, ISO, metering mode, white balance, creative styles, and file format. I'm not going to dive into each one here. The idea is just to have things you actually change while shooting in one place, instead of digging through the menus. And once this is set up, the camera becomes much faster and easier to use. Now in the main menu, there are key things I changed. The AF illuminator I have set as off, and it can help autofocus in low light, but it can be distracting when shooting around other people. The face AI autofocus I've kept on, and I've set this to human detection. Phase priority multi-metering is also on as well, and soft skin tone effect is actually off. Focus peaking, I've set mine to high and color red, and this is useful if you ever switch to manual focus. Silent shooting I actually keep on, and using the electronic shutter. I prefer this because I don't want to disturb people around me, and I want to blend in and capture moments as naturally as possible. If you notice rolling shutter in low light, just switch back to mechanical shutter. Auto review is off, and the monitor brightness I've set to high. Just keep in mind this will reduce battery life. And finally, make sure your date, time, location, and copyright info are set correctly. You'll thank yourself later. There's nothing worse than adding photos to your library out of date and time sync. Because Sony's older menu system can be a bit janky, I really recommend setting up favorites. This saves you loads of time trying to find things later. And once this is set up, you barely need to dig through the main menus again, especially for travel photography. And this is how I've set mine up. On the first page, these are photo settings I want quick access to while shooting, like aspect ratio, silent shooting, face and AI autofocus, AF illuminator, and touchscreen function. On the second page, I mainly use this for video settings since I also shoot YouTube videos like this. And this page is optional for you if you're only focused on photography. But I have things like the file format for video, record settings, autofocus drive speed and tracking sensitivity, and the picture profile. On page 3, here I keep my effects and extra features, such as soft skin effect, red eye reduction, or interval shooting. And this is useful if you want to shoot a time lapse by capturing a series of images and then turning them into a video later. And finally, on page 4, I keep a format on its own page, and this is intentional so I don't accidentally wipe my card and lose any photos. You do get confirmation before it formats, but keeping it separate just adds peace of mind. Now, if you'd like to see my setup for the Sony a6400, the camera that I'm currently filming on, let me know in the comment section down below. If you found this helpful, remember to like and subscribe. And if you ever visit Cyprus and you want to explore the island through photography, then check the links in the description box down below. I've also included a free photo guide to help inspire your next trip to Cyprus. Now, before you go, why don't you check out some of these photography POV videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in Cyprus soon.